All right, so the agenda that I sent, and thanks for the feedback on some of that, just wanted to, for us, I want to go over a couple things. So Articles 22 and 27 in which were part of your grammar proposal, we couldn't find any edits, and so I just wanted on the official record that 22 and 27 are closed.
Yeah, when I went back and looked, I didn't see any on what I'd sent you either, so I think that they just got looped in by accident with the grammar corrections.
All right, so 22 and 27 are closed. And then, so also want to thank you for the time we had during our work session. And while we know that the rules of Vegas apply there as to what happens in a work session stays in a work session, I think sometimes it's good to be able to celebrate some successes. And so we do have the preamble tentatively agreed upon based on the conversations we had there. So, and those are packets that contain all our proposals, correct?
Yes.
So we
I
can
think the paper clips will help Ron out quite a bit.
so we can sign when we caucus.
Is it extra copies for you then? If you want to take that?
All right, so like we talked about, if we're just proposing a previous proposal, we're not going to waste trees and print off multiple copies. So Articles 2, 9, 10, and 23, so recognition, discipline, discharge, grievance procedure, and strikes and lockouts are the same as our previous proposals. So it should be the second page there you have. And I thought that, we're both going to we'll give you 3 new proposals and then a presentation. You'll do a presentation and some proposals. And then when we go, if we have time to caucus, which I think we probably will, we could discuss whether we wanted to, after caucusing, discuss our position on articles that have remained unchanged.
Yes.
So I just didn't want to get into those conversations right now, but happy to after a caucus. So that leads us into Article 11, work hours, work week, and our counter proposal there is one change, and that was you had proposed in item number 2 that no later than August 15th, and so we agreed to add that language there. So that's the one change in that article from our previous proposals based on your proposal.
Okay.
So then the next one is emergency school closure. Got some, I would consider substantial changes here. So what we did is we took out under B and that paragraph started to get long, and I think that then it's kind of hard, can be kind of confusing to go, well, which group do I fall under? So we create under B, we then did a Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, and then a 1, 2. So there not a lot changes. 10, 11-month employees will be paid their regular wages for a closure day, but agree to make up such time. That really is unchanged. What is changing is that 12-month employees will be paid for the first missed emergency closure day. If designated to work on the first missed day, 12-month employees will be paid for hours worked in addition to closure pay. That's the same. Closure pay hours will not count toward hours for overtime purposes for any employee. Again, it's the same. Here's where there's a big change. After the first missed day, 12-month employees who are required to report to a work site will receive time and a half their rate of pay for hours worked. After the first missed day, 12-month employees who are required to work remotely will receive their regular rate of pay for hours worked. So in reviewing some of you gave us the North Santiam language. We also looked at other contracts. Looks like most contracts for 12-month employees, when they are reporting to a work site on a closure day, are getting some form of additional pay. So in acknowledgement to what our neighboring districts are doing, we're adding that proposal. We did think it was important to distinguish because with remote work options, there's, there are 12-month employees like tech department that, may elect and can work from home. And so thought it was really the additional pay for be those who are coming onto school sites, probably preparing the school day for the next, when the school reopens and things like that. So, and then I don't think there's really much of any other changes on that page. If you go down to C, as you are aware, this last year we had a number of delays during the school year, and there was one point where we applied a change in practice and did not allow there to be any kind of compensatory time for people that show up during a delay period that showed up on time. So, if there's a delay period and Vance shows up at 6, the practice has been that Vance would get 2 hours of, compensatory time. And so we applied a change in practice. You filed a grievance over that. After reading the grievance and understanding what the concerns were, and because when contract language isn't clear, we go to past practice. So we just thought we'd add this sentence in here to make sure that moving forward it wasn't unclear anymore, that if an employee is required to report to work during a delay period, they'll get compensatory time. Because that is the practice that has been, correct? I'm looking to the two guys that have the most long-standing and experience in this situation. Okay. And then we thought we'd add some clarity on D, though, that, wanted to separate that if someone reports to work but is then sent home, they get their 2-hour minimum. If they report to work during a delay period but don't go home, then actually C would apply.
So,
Any questions? Okay. We did like the fact that North Sandy Ams was only 3 paragraphs. We thought that was
Very
pretty
much
cool.
so.
I was really
we
impressed.
thought about trying to go that direction, but we thought, working within what we know might be easier. So, all right, where do we go?
25. 25.
25.
Yep.
So reductions, there's one item that we agree to your language on, and that is
3B.
3B. 4 bumps instead of 3.
Yeah.
But that was the only, I think, team, that was the only one that we,
I believe.
Actually, you agreed
Oh.
to C on the last page, too.
yes, or E.
Or E, sorry.
So we did agree to go from, we counter-proposed, I guess, on that one, because you were asking for a different number there. But we counter-proposed instead of for a step movement from 100, goes from 120 to 90. So,
That's it.
yep.
All right.
And is that
Yeah,
it?
that is it.
Okay. All right, so at this time, Kim is going to give a presentation based on our, given some historical information along with what our proposal or economic proposal represents. So, Daniel, I'm not sure if it's,
Daniel's got us ready here, so.
Yep.
So welcome everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kim Dowd and I'm the controller for Silver Falls School District. So as we continue on the journey to collaborate and renew the bargaining agreement, we wanted to share the path that we've traveled together over the past few years, the progress and advancements that have been made, and share with you the district's focus for the future. Today's presentation will demonstrate the strong partnership that we have with OSEA. The collaboration of our teams over the past few years has resulted in great strides, not only during these contract renewals, but also throughout the years as our work, our roles, and our environments all continue to change. That is the one given. Things are continuing to change. Every step, every action, every decision must be rooted in the Silver Falls strategic plan. Supporting our mission and fulfilling our vision requires intentional and focused goals, and the goals shown here are the foundation that guide all of us every day. To achieve these goals, we have and we will continue to invest in our most valuable asset, our people. Without the right hearts in the right roles, we cannot achieve these goals. Working in our schools takes a ton of heart. It takes compassion, it takes patience and strength, and we have an incredible group of staff who possess these very traits. So we wanted to share with you that we are committed to ensuring that we continue to be the district that people are proud to work for, the district that people want to remain with, never want to leave, and that our district helps our staff continue to achieve their own personal and professional goals. So each and every one of us has felt the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic over the past 3 years, but unfortunately, many of these are still challenging us today. You have likely seen this chart before, but we cannot stress enough how critical it is to understand the overall financial health of Silver Falls School District. In the past 3 years, investments in personnel, along with increased material, utility costs, and others, have created a dramatic increase in expenses. And with district revenues hinging heavily on student enrollment, a loss of 10% of our student population at the height of the pandemic only exacerbated those increased costs. So this required the district to turn to our savings, which is known as our ending fund balance, to maintain operations. And we now face our lowest ending fund balance in years, well below the level stated in board policy as shown with the line on the right. To put this number in perspective, this $2 million, our savings, once again, that's our ending fund balance, it is equal only to 60% of 1 month of payroll. To ensure the financial stability of our district, we must continue to make informed and fact-based decisions that allow us to continue to meet the needs of the students and our staff while also remaining financially and fiscally responsible to our taxpayers. So as shared in my opening statements, the path we've taken together with our classified association has been collaborative, focusing on fair and regionally competitive total compensation. This graphic provides a visual demonstration of the growth in classified wages due to COLA adjustments over the past 6 years. These COLA adjustments are in addition to experience step increases. Step increases are awarded annually for up to 8 years for our classified staff, with each step providing an average 3.7% increase in wages on top of these COLAs that are shown here. While the COLA adjustments in the 2017 through 2020 contract were pretty straightforward, the current contract was designed to address comparative data brought to us by the association showing our top steps were in need of an increase to remain competitive. And as a result, we added Step 8 to the wage scale in July 2020, moving all staff who had previously reached their top wage level to this new step and adding a 1.5% increase on top of the COLA. This pattern continued for the next 2 years, adding an additional 0.5% wage increase to Step 8 on top of the COLA for each of those subsequent years. Now in 21-22, we negotiated with the OSEA an enrollment kicker, and this enrollment kicker would provide an additional 0.5% COLA to staff based on defined levels of student enrollment recovery. Unfortunately, We did not see our enrollment figures increase in 21-22. We were not able to implement that COLA enrollment kicker. However, as the 22-23 school year began, the district approached OSEA and offered to extend the kicker for another year. And we were pleased to see student enrollment begin to trend upward again in 22-23, and we were thrilled to implement the additional 0.5% COLA for all classified staff January 1 of 23. So now there are many factors that affect wage scales. We all know that. And across our employee groups, many groups have added new experience steps. Some have removed the entry-level steps. Some scales have been restructured, and some positions have been moved into higher paying wage scales or wage ranges. However, we developed this chart. We wanted to show only cost of living adjustments applied by employee group over the past 6 years. In addition to investing in increased wages through COLAs and additional steps, the district has made significant investments increasing positions and hours across our classified employee group. At just over 250 hours in the 17-18 school year, we've increased hours by 26.8% in our classified roles, with our classified staff now providing over 325,000 hours of service to this district in 22-23. Now, with each contract renewal, we evaluate total compensation. We make adjustments to wages and insurance benefits, but the work does not end there. Throughout the contract, we continually assess roles and responsibilities along with appropriate wage placement for each. And during this past contract, both teams have spent countless hours evaluating positions, developing new job descriptions, redefining wage placements for positions, including positions in technology, our office specialists, our food services, custodial grounds and maintenance, campus monitors, and security. And as a result, many of our positions are now incorporated into a career path, providing clarity and direction for employees looking to grow their skills and ultimately grow their earnings. And this approach will continue to be the focus for us throughout this bargaining season and beyond, as we aim to provide all employees with opportunities to grow. So to demonstrate the impact of this mid-contract work, we've analyzed the data we've analyzed the data for the starting rate of pay for each position in our 17-18 school year through the 22-23 school year. We found that 26 of 55 positions in our classified association received wage increases in addition to COLA adjustments. Each of these 26 titles have been moved into higher paying wage columns or have had new higher paying positions created as a result of these ongoing efforts. Certainly understand this is not visible in this setting, but this will be posted on the website. This entire presentation will be on the website after today. So now let's get down to an example of how this has all affected our staff. This first example here is to show you a new hire who started with Silver Falls in the 16-17 school year. On the left, you'll see an example of someone who was hired into the position, which at the time was an elementary or junior high secretary in 2016. And over the past 6 years, this employee has seen an increase of 57.5% in their rate of pay. This is due, as you can see, to steps, a reclassification, as well as COLAs. Multiple pieces at play in this one. On the right, someone hired into a special needs assistant position at the exact same time has seen an increase of 46.8% in their wages over these 6 years. Now, on the alternative, this slide provides an example of the exact same positions, but shows someone who is at the other end of the wage scale, having reached their top step already in 16-17. On the left, our secretary was on step 7, but due to both adding step 8 in 2020 and a reclassification of the role in addition to COLAs, this position has seen an increase of 29.2% in wages. On the right, the special needs assistant also received their step 8 in 2020 plus the annual COLAs, resulting in a 20.1% increase over 6 years. However, in addition to these increases, all classified staff who reach 8 years of service receive a longevity bonus in year 8, again in year 10, and each 5 years thereafter, further increasing total compensation. So over the past 6 years, our classified association has focused their efforts on attaining increased insurance contributions for all members. Monthly contributions by SFSD have risen 34.9% for many full-time employees, and the addition of an opt-out incentive established a new HRA benefit for those with other private medical health insurance coverage, an increase of $4,800 per year in compensation for many. Today, the insurance benefit from SFSD far outweighs the benefit provided at our neighboring districts. Most employees receive medical, dental, and vision coverage for their entire family, plus a monthly HSA benefit with no out-of-pocket monthly premiums. After analyzing our neighboring comparative districts, we found that the average employer contribution for health insurance benefits for a 35-hour-per-week employee is $1,464. This figure alone puts Silver Falls $235 per month above the average of these same districts. When factored down to an hourly value, this represents $2.22 per hour in additional compensation over our competitors for our 35-hour-per-week, 10-month employees. So you've heard me use the term total compensation many times, and it's very important that we clarify this term. So across all industries, employees who are performing work are guaranteed payment of wages in the form of an hourly pay or a salary. But what is not guaranteed are the additional perks of a job that provide additional financial support to employees and their families. Of course, the most common and most significant impact on total compensation is through health insurance and retirement contributions made by the employer. With a large portion of Oregon districts covering the full employee required contribution to PERS, and most of our neighboring districts doing so, we've focused our analysis on wage and health insurance contributions. This chart provides a sampling of data using 4 positions in our classified association, showing the total hourly compensation for each position. And this shows that for our EAs, educational assistants, and our special needs assistants, the hourly value of our insurance contribution is $16 and a penny. This is unheard of in any other industry. So the focus on increasing insurance contributions has been a huge benefit for many, has allowed Silver Falls to offer total compensation well above the average of our neighboring districts. Our 7-hour assistants earn 51 cents to $1.06 per hour more than the average of our 14 neighboring districts in total compensation. Our SNAs earn more in total compensation than our neighboring districts. However, this slide clearly shows you each of these roles are indeed below the average hourly wage of our neighboring districts. And why? If you remember just 2 slides ago, Silver Falls insurance contributions are $2.22 above the average. Our district is committed to collaborating with the association, evaluating total compensation and hourly wages, and finding a solution that meets the needs of all of our employees and maintaining competitive wages and total compensation with all of our neighboring districts. So we've returned to this slide I shared with you earlier, showing the total percent of COLA adjustments by employee group over the past 6 years. In our second bargaining session on May 31st, the district provided OSEA with our financial proposal providing rate increases for every staff member, the most significant increases addressing our entry-level positions. Based on this proposal, our classified staff would receive an overall average COLA increase of 5.18%. And this chart shows you the resulting 7-year COLA totals by employee classification based on that proposal and including the finalized 2023-2024 COLAs for all other employee groups. We look forward to continuing to work together to finalize this renewed contract for the coming years. So everything you have seen here and will continue to see from the district will be in support of our focus and our commitment to our classified employees. We will take every step to continue to attract a qualified and skilled workforce and that to ensure sustainable operations. We will support our classified staff in their current roles while also providing opportunities for growth. And we will continue to provide competitive compensation and benefits in coordination with pathways for career advancement to retain our skilled and valuable workforce. Thank you, everyone. As we shared before, this will be available on our website after today's session. So.
It's all yours.
We actually need a quick caucus to set up for ours.
Okay.
So, have that, we
Yep.
appreciate it.
Do you want?
We're going to have a presentation presented by Tammy here, and please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Tammy Madison, and I'm on the Collective Bargaining Committee, and I'm also a library media assistant at Robert Frost. And I want to thank you all for this opportunity to share information with you. We've all worked very hard to bring it to you. It is the best information available and the most current figures. We have heard a lot in this bargaining about comparisons and costs and justifications for our proposals. We all know that the district would prefer to limit the discussion to the focused, narrow field of topics. We want to expand this discussion. We also wanted to see how this district has kept up with the cost of living for our employees over the years. After all, this is one of the most unbiased ways to look at the wages fairly. As most of you know, most of us can cherry pick a few years and make just about any point they would like. So bearing with this in mind, we decided to look at the last 22 years. To see how the district has done over those years. We looked at the contract wages and the consumer price index from the spring of 2001 to this spring 2023. What we found was very eye-opening, and we have a document that's going to be passed out. It is a graph, and I will explain what's on this graph. Thank you. All right, so not only has the district not kept up with the cost of living over this 20-year stretch, but it has also actually fallen behind. In some areas, very behind. As you can see from the chart provided, there isn't any group of job classifications that hasn't been behind at some point, behind at this point. The first column in blue is the contract rates of pay from 2001. The second column is what those jobs should pay if the contract wages did keep up with the cost of living. The third column is what the actual wages are currently. The last column in the white with the red writing is the actual difference between the cost of living is and what we are actually being paid. As you can see, all of them are in the red. The amounts span from about $1 behind to about $3 behind the cost of living. This is why we feel compelled to share this information with you today. We hope that this will help move the conversation forward about wages for these hard-working employees of Silver Falls. We know we did make a big ask coming to the bargaining table because we wanted to focus your attention on the need to address the wages we make here. As you will see in our upcoming bundle, we have tried to make a more measured ask, using some very creative ideas and by incorporating some of your ideas as well. The goal is to help make Silver Falls a place where people want to work, want to stay. I desperately want to stay here, okay? And thrive. We want everyone that's at our schools to thrive, because if we thrive, the students will thrive, the district will thrive. It will just, everything will grow. And I just really, really, really want that for our environment here at Silver Falls. I want to thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, thank you, Tammy. We have a bundle proposal we want to share with you now.
Can I get this in PDF just so I can post
You
it?
absolutely will. Yeah,
Okay.
Just like that, once you can post it.
Great.
And we'll give you a copy of what she said.
All right.
Never know which side to do.
I know. Give me-
I apologize in advance. All my office staff is up preparing for our conference this weekend, and print around out of staples, bunch of things so it got chewed up a little. You'll see in some other ones they stapled in the wrong corner because it's a new machine and I didn't know that. But we'll muddle through. All right, so what you're looking at here on the front page is we adopted your idea. You see in blue there. To re-emphasize what the color scheme again for us is blue is something you're new, you're seeing this time. Yellow is something you've seen before. And green is where I believe we have agreement. Nothing's done until it's all done, but at least it helps us focus in on the areas where I think we need to. If you see something in green that should be, let me know. You'll see in the blue section here, we've kind of taken your approach to the dollar amount and the breakdown of columns, and we've attached our dollar amount, of course, to that, and tried to see if we can get a bit closer using your system there. We do believe, we talked about comparison districts and the groups that I work with and stuff, and I would say that I would double check, but I think that there's not one of them that pays less than $16 starting wage for any job. So that's something to maybe take a peek at too as you're looking through some of those comparisons. You've seen what's down here in the yellow, so I'm going to turn the page. So we talked about reindexing steps because, as was pointed out in the district presentation, we have different, and it's just something that happens over time. They kind of float with dollar amounts or even percentages. They start to float apart from each other. So we want to reindex them to, I think we had 7 initially, and we dropped that down to 5 to try to just make some standard so people know factoring forward if they're going to stay with the district what they're going to make next year so they can be prepared to make those decisions. I think we've adopted your language down here under 3 and 4. I believe that's what you proposed, with the exception, we did change one piece. You'll see down there, it says for mid-year hires, payroll adjustments. I think it said something with consultation or something. It was your language you put with agreement of the employee. And if there needs to be more discussion with that, we're fine with that. We just want to make sure we're truly understanding that this is something that the employee must agree to, or we come to an agreement here at the table of what that means, and so we understand it. Down below, since we have this in another section already, 5, I just added what I thought would make it easier since we referenced it in the other section. Employee will get on the first check following the probationary period. I think that's in line with what we've talked about. The bilingual down below, why that's in green is because it says it's been spelled out with the parentheses and all that stuff. There's no change there. Same thing with B. But I believe we're in agreement that that should be spelled out that way. And then down below that, we saw your initial proposal, I think was 65 or 75 cents. Ours was, I think, about $2. So after some discussions, we decided that $1.50 be more in line with what we're trying to do here. So that's why I see that change there. If you turn the page here, again, the yellow is the things you've seen before. We have dropped down by about half for what we were asking, I believe, on most of these columns. They're still annualized, but we just feel like 250 is a good starting point because 125 after taxes sure ain't much, probably 60, 70 bucks if you're lucky. But following that same kind of a 250 spread all the way up and then just leaving the top column at 1,500 is what this proposal shows. PLO, I feel like we haven't had really good discussions about this. I think we want you to pay it and you don't, but I don't feel like we've had any real in-depth discussions about this, so we've left our original proposals until we do that. And that goes with the back page here too. Obviously, you probably don't agree. Even if you agree to do this, you're probably not agreeing to everything on this back page, right? So I just feel like we have to have more discussions before we can give you a counter that is something that maybe reaches to that. And that's the same on the next page too, with the continuation. Right, Article 4, in this bundle package, you will see we are leaving the insurance amount at $1,700. And the reason for this will become apparent later. We've not exactly adopted your proposal of $500 for HSA, because I believe you had it the second year, and we're still showing a one-year contract at this point. But we did include it down here. I believe the language has changed here under C. I think B is just grammatical, but C, this was your language that I believe we've adopted in this proposal, including with A being struck out. And then the part-time proration language, we've adopted your language in this proposal, removed our no less than 5-hour employee language. And that continues over to the second page there. Again, 3 in the riders, I believe, is just a, I think you guys had bolded and made it kind of its own thing instead of a period after you made like a section title. So we agreed with that. Down below, we've agreed with your striking disability insurance premiums after we had those discussions. 5 is grammatical in all of that, and I believe we're okay with that, but not what we know. 8 you've seen before, and it feeds into our number 11 ask, which is our insurance pool. And we've deleted 12 and 13, our ask, that was number 12 and 13 on previous proposal in this bundle. And the reason being is because we want to show you our focus, and insurance really is this insurance pool. And I don't know if you guys have had a chance to reach out to Olivia yet. It's a crazy time of year for everybody. But we do believe this can turn into a win-win for the district and for the members here, as it has down in Corvallis and other groups that have it. And I would like to have some more in-depth discussion about this. Another one, I think we've explained it, but I don't think we've really talked through it. Whether that's a work session or in some other manner, that's fine. But as you can see, we're flatlining, keeping 1,700 for our proposal, not making in this bundle, and not making any requests for additional funding. We do believe this could fix that problem of having to constantly be jumping up that funding every contract cycle or every year. All right, if you turn to 16, we did incorporate in the 2 days and 6 months. We really, the proposal, we pretty much left here. I think we did add, I think somewhere, we tried to make it so you can see every year, and I think a couple said like 10 and then said 12, but it did say 11. So there's some minor, those probably should be blue, but it doesn't effectively change anything. Down below, we have language here for less than 12-month employees. So when we're talking about comparative districts, and I know Dallas was in that group, they have 4 weeks of paid vacation for all employees. That is a difference, right? So the wages are different, but they have those benefits on the side too. So that aren't comparable here because you don't have that for those folks. But part of the reason why some of these districts have done this stuff is because it allows you, when you're trying to stay competitive but also not break the bank, to give people a benefit that is a monetary amount that, I think up in Oregon City, they did a week up there, and it was 1.8% was the COLA for that group in the middle, that would have factored out cost-wise. If they'd have got a COLA, one per day would have been about the same. But next year, it didn't get another COLA stacked on top of it. So there was a chunk of money paid to these people. But unlike a 5% COLA this year, and a 5% COLA next year, and a 5%, that's 15% by the time you get to the end as it stacks. Whereas in this particular benefit, as we're proposing it, would be, whatever that COLA would be for the equivalent for the first year, but the next year would be, if you get a 70-cent raise, it would be that and 70 cents, right? It wouldn't double the dollar amount of it. So it's something I hope you guys will look at, because I think it's a way to really address some of these people that are really the core group here that we're trying to talk about, the less than full-time people. And of course, we're talking about all people, but these folks here, I think, are the ones that are the harder ones to keep, and we want to try to make their checks bigger, however that we can do that. And this would be a way to do that wouldn't compound like it does for the COLA necessarily for the district. So that's the idea behind this proposal, and you'll see it carries over to the next page. And the yellow you've seen before, that just allow, and that's, let me flip back one page. You'll see the bottom of 2, we crossed out the balances, whatever, because we've added, I don't know if I said that the first time we did the proposal, we added 4, which would allow them to roll it over, and it talks about cashing out there, but to roll it over into a retirement plan. Or if you go to 17 on the next page, Article 17, it's kind of hard to show something you take out, so I put some blue lines there so it'd be a little easier. We've kind of backed our ask off in this proposal to Indigenous Peoples Day, because we do feel that it's it's important to, you know, show that we understand our past and that we're trying to make more people aware. And we also just think it's, I mean, whether you call it Columbus Day or Independence Day, or excuse me, or Indigenous Peoples Day, we just feel like it's good to have that awareness for people to know what's going on. So we've got that as the full-time person up here. And since you're less than full-time work that time too, you'll see it reflected below. And we've removed the other ask we had in the upper column. And we removed 3 asks from below. But Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve kind of feel like days that, you know, it just kind of feels wrong not to give everybody those days off with pay. And the district may agree or disagree to that, but that's why we've left those in there. So, and in number 4, you can see before, it largely is talking about Juneteenth, really, or Independence Day. So if you go to 19, you'll see that we have B struck. Again, we think this is in violation of BOLI. It's our understanding, and if you want to talk to your legal folks and see if maybe we just got it wrong and they can point me in a different direction. The only reason why we have it struck is because we believe it's illegal. That the mechanism for recouping the funds would be to sue them in a small claims court. So that's why we have that struck. Just wanted to touch on that again. Down below, we've adopted a lot of your language. That's why it's in green. I believe this is all your language. Please double check. We have left our I-1 down below there, or 1I-1, I guess it is, because we believe that's the law, that it's a 15-minute increment. And so that's why we've made that change. Again, if you've got something else to show me on that, then you know that maybe is something we can resolve really easily. We continue on to the next page. We've struck out the IV down there, is per your proposal in this bundle. And then down below, I believe this is your language in the green here that we've struck out and modified. And then you'll see something new is number 4. So I think we had something like 160 hours, anything above that, which for a full-timer would be, you know, 20, or I think it'd be 30 days, right? 20 days. I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter, we've changed it. So, and the reason why we changed this is brought forward in another district that, you know, and it's a good point, is that, you know, if you get, you know, 80 hours for full-timer a year, 2 years you can hit that mark. But if you're a 4-hour employee, it's going to take you, you know, many more years. And same with anybody who's less than full-time, it's going to take longer. So it kind of made sense that we were trying to narrow down on this, and this is newer language in this arena. So we were trying to narrow down when we were bargaining over it was, what are we really talking about? We're talking about days off with their normal pay, their FTE, whatever, 6-hour, 5-hour, 4, whatever. So how many days do we have here? Well, we're proposing 1 month because we're going to get 3 months here starting September, supposedly, for PLO, right? So that's 4 months right there if you got an injury. If you have any vacation or sick pay and other things, you know, you can be, or excuse me, not sick pay, a sick bank, and you have personal days. I mean, this is up to 6 months almost right there, and those leaves alone if this was adopted. Now, there may be a difference of idea on how many days should be banked, but we do believe that this gives you guys the ability to attract people that want to stay with you, like Kim pointed out with the job path, but it also gives them a way to save in a way that lets them retire with dignity. And hopefully the state's not listening. The state can't touch their pension, can't divert it or change it, you know, because it's their 403B. So that's the goal of this language, and we've tried to come at it from a different direction to see if it makes more sense or if it's easier to wrap our heads around this collectively. We turn to the next page. The sick bank language, I think we've adopted most of your language, Dan. We did make a couple changes because we thought it looked like some of it was the error that I make in copying and pasting. It wasn't exactly right for classified. And starting at the top, you know, we just want the ability to make it clear. I think we have this right already, but I just want to make it clear that you know, if I need to come there for some reason, if Vance says, hey, Hobie, can you come check this out? I can come observe, but I'm not a voting member. That's not my role. It's not my role now. So, but that would be the idea there, is if we need that, we got it. And then down below, I think we had a different word than exhausted. Exhausted felt like it fit better, but I think it's close to the same meaning. And then under D, I think we just made this clear that once they used all they wouldn't necessarily get this until they used all their funds from PLO, right? That was the intent of D, to clear that up a little. And 4 hours seemed like a heavy lift for a lot of employees that are not 8-hour employees, unlike the teachers. So we kind of cut that number in half We felt that that was closer to, kind of representing more of our 4, 5, 6 hour, 7 hour employees and 8 hour employees. And then we think what you were saying in F was if the situation above happens where they have to take another day. So that's why we just made that really clear, E above, and then before they can use the benefit. So the idea being they got to have it, got to have the money in the kitty before they can break the kitty and take the money, right? The piggy bank. So that's what those two slight changes are, is to make that a little clearer. I hope. So that's our bundle. If you got questions, we can take those now, or we can present the next two, and we can ask them all at the end. The other two are standalone proposals. How do we want to proceed? Or do you want to caucus and come back and ask questions?
No, I think. I don't know. This is a lot to take in.
It is a lot.
So,
Yeah.
We came with some stuff for you, man. We're trying to get her done in July, remember?
well, we had said that we would, discuss the 4 that we countered with same language after caucus. So maybe it might be better if we got your other 2 proposals that are individual, since this is a bundle.
Yeah.
This might be better just to look at in totality versus picking off one thing at a time and go, well, and hear you say,
Right.
remember, Dan, it's a bundle.
That's right.
Poof.
Goes poof. But I know you're going to sign it, so I think we're done. Right? But the other 2 are not poofers. They're the old-fashioned standalone proposals. You look like you're not off over there. No. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, so Article 15 reclass / change procedure. So we actually took your last proposal and we kept a lot of the language in like you wanted. We do believe there's more than one way to do this. And so you can see the changes there. We've put, some changes in 1. The idea here is that I just want to make sure we're not limiting ourselves. So, like for instance, when you talked about the secretaries, right? We had those initial discussions in this meeting, right? And then I want you to be able to continue to do that and not feel like we're doing something against the contract. So I think that's the intent, but I just wanted to clarify it with that 4 classification in there. Down below, we accepted the changes there in this counter. Below that, we accepted most of the changes. We did add back in, maybe presented either in person or in writing or both. And the purpose of that is that some people just may not be able to make the meeting, and if they put it all in writing, I mean, that's their choice to show up, or they could put it in writing and show up too. But we didn't want them to not be able to access the process because they cannot be there for one reason or another. So that's why we added that back in. Down below, I believe we accepted the proposal from you in green there. We did strike out this clause, and it's interesting because it's racking my brain and we put this language in initially. But I know this was not our intention. The intention was to, but it's in there. So the intention was that if the committee makes a decision, we don't grieve that because we're both agreeing, right? Whether it's bad, good, or indifferent, we're both agreeing. But the superintendent language here, having to be able to deny things but only be able to deny a reclass that's been approved, I mean, it just seems a little bit silly because if it's approved, I don't know why they would deny it anyway. So we just struck that language. Now, I believe you said you might be interested in doing something with the change process, and I won't put words in your mouth, but I think you said you wanted to put it in another article. and I, for the life of me, could not remember if that was right or what our legal code it is. It might have been wages, I don't remember. But that language on the end there is the same. So I think we're pretty close on most of it.
Yeah, so I think, yes, in fact, it was gonna be in the salary one, and I was, actually, as you were going through, I was wondering if that was gonna make an appearance there, but
I just couldn't quite remember. I
Yeah.
don't have the video myself, so I just was like, okay.
we will add some language there in our next salary proposal to put
Okay.
that change process there.
All right, and then, so under training, we were talking about, it's up to 14.5, we drop back to 10, we do all this.
Could I ask a quick question
please.
on the strikeout of the, so if we establish a committee and the committee disagrees and, and it goes to the superintendent makes a decision, and so, I mean, the strikeout is intending to be able to potentially grieve the superintendent's decision?
Yes, if both sides don't agree, the idea when we discussed it in advance, we're talking about this, and to be fair, we were doing a lot of bargaining. That was a lot more than this time. The idea was to go to the superintendent, kind of fresh eyes to look at it. But the idea that the superintendent could say no and that'd be the end of the process was not what we considered to be what the process should be. So that's what it looks like here in writing anyway.
Okay.
So the idea is that, keep in mind, if we file a grievance, we still got to prove our case, right? So that's the intent, is to make it so that if we just don't agree all the way up, we try to resolve it through another process. I don't think you've had any of these, so.
We've had one in the life of the contract. We've had one where there's been a disagreement.
Yeah, it's not too bad. So, all right, so 21, like I said, we were talking about all these different numbers and amounts. We said, let's just settle on an amount. Let's not, because I think we talked about it. If we don't use it, we build. So like, let's say it's 15 this year and 20 next year. Well, we use 10. Well, we now can lap with 35, or just picking simple numbers here. But the idea was if we keep building, we just got to thinking about it. It just seems cleaner just to say, hey, look, just pick an amount. This is the amount. Pick an amount that we're going to pay people. It makes it real simple. I think you guys had used the Western Oregon University credit thing or whatever, and I went and looked, and it looks like this amount will cover that, maybe with $12 to spare for a 4-credit class. So that's the intent of this back to you, is just to clean it up a bit and just make it really streamlined and simple with some real clear stuff in there. If it's Western University or it's some kind of licensing you want to do, whatever, this is the amount, this is the process. And up above, we've adopted your changes in this proposal too.
We had separated out this, we added a sentence on licensing and testing, and gave it a dollar amount.
I think we just felt that it's just simpler just to have $1 amount, because if they're giving you a receipt to be reimbursed, and if it's $250, that's obviously less than $750, right? So you'd give them $250. The maximum they could do would be $750. Does that make sense? That was the intent anyway. I hope that makes sense.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just simple. Like, it was very. You got to have something for them to reimburse. They got to give you a receipt for that amount. And if it's $1,000, then $750 is the most they would get, right?
So this isn't reimbursement, though. Professional development would be us paying for a course for them to go to. So
Well,
tuition reimbursement
sorry.
would be
Right. It would be
a separate,
Oh,
that's not, these are just PD, so we would pay for them to go to
Yeah,
a
so-
class or
I see
something.
what you're saying.
Yeah, so tuition
That was the
reimbursement,
intent, to try to make it more streamlined, but we probably could have added a line about tuition reimbursement.
Yeah, I think we need a process for that, because we do require, people to demonstrate successful completion. Usually professional development is a workshop, it's a pay up front. There's no, other than someone actually showing up and attending, there isn't a lot of accountability
Sure.
on it. So we would need, if we're going to move forward with the tuition reimbursement program, we're going to need to have a process for it.
And I think part of the confusion here is that there's some people that I believe told us that they've taken classes. Am I wrong about that? And they've been, or maybe I misheard that.
I don't know how they were reimbursed or if it was paid
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, so that might be part of the confusion here too. But yeah, I mean,
We have
it's-
tried to broaden this over, because it hasn't been used, and have a pretty
Right.
broad lens on it. So
Right.
some of them might be actually classes at Shemeketa or something like that.
Right,
That's
right, yeah, I think that's it.
and it may not be like a, a college 200 class. It may just be more of, hey, it's more of a workshop oriented. They go every week, but it's not maybe an accredited class. So,
Yeah, and I think that, the language you're talking about is pretty, you gotta, usually it's something like you have to do C or better, or pass or fail, it's a pass or fail class. And if it's undergrad, it might be B or something, or sorry, it's like the higher level might be a B, That's pretty easy language you can add. We didn't paint a counter for you on that.
you'll probably see similar language from our last proposal.
Well, we do want to try to make.
But we
it
see
more
that you
strict.
also want to, increase that amount. We can talk about that.
Well, we do want to, because with the understanding that anything that's not used would go back to the district rather than try to keep track and have it roll forward. And it just makes more sense to have a flat amount from us, and then if 10,000 of that 20,000 gets used, the 10,000 would roll back to the district, or you could fund 10,000 of the new one with that. You know what I mean? Like however you wanted to handle that, but there would be no tracking of that money other than its usage, right? Per year. So that's part of the idea of instead of having 3 different rates over the years, just have one. Have it be applied the way it should be applied, and that's the idea anyway. Same thing with the payouts too. Even if we did tuition stuff, I think if you look at, unless I've got some outdated stuff off the internet, that would cover what you're asking for too for 750. So maybe making it clear that it's tuition also. That might be a way to do it. Any other questions with that?
I don't think so. Team, do we have any other questions?
All right. Shall
So why don't we check in at 3 o'clock, see how things are going?
Okay. Record that.
Where would you like to start?
I figured we'd start since we're quicker.
Okay.
So 25, I think after having that sidebar with the understanding what you meant by one piece, I think we're ready to sign that one.
Okay.
That's TA.
All right.
And 11, we have a counter for you.
Okay.
We hope it's done.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
So I think we're in alignment, obviously, on all the green stuff throughout the document. I think the only part where we're apart on is number 3A. And I think we have a fundamental disagreement on practice and on understanding what this language is. We'll have Vance to speak to it in a minute, but we believe this gives you the ability to shift them, like if the school's delayed or changes or whatever, for 30 minutes. If I'm a 7.5-hour employer, I could be shifted a little half hour later. I start at 7:30, then I might start at 8, or I could go the other way. It could be shifted from 7:30 to 7. That's how we understand that language. And then I'll have Vance speak to the rest of it.
Right, so the, within staying in the same work status, right, so that gives you flexibility to go from 7 to 8 hours in there. And I'm really afraid that that's gonna turn people off on our jobs, and, not knowing what their schedule looks like, especially if you're saying per day, that could be a little rough or a little different for them. This also worries me when it comes to snow days and makeup time, and if staff are needing to take care of childcare, school gets out at 3 o'clock, they usually get off at 3, they get home by 3:45, so their kid's only really getting off the bus and home 10 or 15 minutes, where if you change their day to 4, now they're getting home 45 minutes or later after their student. A lot of people may not be comfortable with that. So I'm really worried about what your intent of and how to use this would be compared to worst case scenario that we don't want to see.
Right. Well, it would be good to know, maybe, I don't know if we could run any reports historically to see how frequently we've done that. I don't think that's ever really been a practice to, at least not lately, to just cut somebody's hours by 30 minutes a week. Usually it is just an adjustment of their day, or an addition of 30 minutes as long as it falls within this frame.
Just to clarify,
Yeah.
I don't think we're talking about cutting hours. We don't think this gives you the right to do that. We think it gives you the right to shift them 30 minutes their schedule.
Right.
But the part that Vance is specifically talking to is if I'm a 7.5-hour employee, let's say there's a snow day and I have to make up hours. Now I'm an 8-hour employee to help make up those hours, and that may not work for me.
Right.
So we don't want you to extend, because if you stay in the regular paid status, 7.5 or 8 hours, that's the same paid status, right? You're still getting
Same employment
the full,
status.
the full benefits, the full, that's more of what he's speaking to. And we don't believe this gives you the right to cut their hours, just to shift them. So that's how, I guess, just to
Sure.
make it really, really clear where we're coming from on this, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if we go, so maybe sometimes we go down a road that we didn't mean to go down. And so if we back up to what we were trying to accomplish in just kind of this article, what we were attempting to avoid was Brandon has, needs to change someone's schedule because student special needs an adjustment in their schedule. And so Brandon goes up and, basically says, I need you to start 30 minutes earlier and get off 30 minutes earlier because of this child's, program or schedule. And the employee, I'm trying to think back, maybe it's even up to an hour. And the employee says, great, works for me. But there was language in there that basically said that if it was more than 30 minutes, we had to consult with the union. So that's kind of the rabbit trail that this got going down. And then when we were starting to work within that, all of that language of 3A and all of those, then we started to want to make sure that we weren't we started messing around with that, and then when we presented it to you, realized that we weren't on the same page as to what it meant. So, so I just kind of wanted to give us, background of what we were even trying to accomplish, because really all of that in 3A and those lists we haven't probably messed with in the life of this contract.
Well, I think the example you're bringing up is, and I don't see the harm in involving the union. It is an extra step. I agree with that, but I think when those things have come up, Vance has just checked in with the member, and if they're fine, then we're good. This really talks about, in our mind, talks about your ability to just simply do it versus having a discussion or. You have this ability to do it. I'm 7:30 start employee. For whatever reason, I got to start at 7. School needs that flexibility. They can do this, right? If it's an hour earlier because of the example you gave, then they would have the discussion with the employee, loop in the union. We just make sure everybody's cool with that, and then probably the end of that. I mean, I think we've done some of that in the past anyway, but it definitely would be how we would handle that. I don't see it being overly cumbersome. What I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're getting really close on this one.
Yeah.
I think I'm looking at the current contract language of, if we left it unamended, if we just left it as is, I think the one concern is that if we did make a change, we obviously, now would be the time to, get clarity around what this language means.
Yeah, we're not opposed to doing that. I mean, the grammatical changes are fine. Their work week versus just work week kind of makes sense. Making work week one word instead of 2, we're fine with that. But we could drop the other stuff and just go with the current language. I mean, that's, well, assuming we agree on the application,
Yeah. I mean, so if we just take the current contract language, it says the district will assign employees work week annually. The district will notify employees in advance of changes will be made to the employee's assigned work week. Minor adjustments of 30 minutes or less are not considered changes within the scope of this provision. So when we think minor changes, it doesn't say whether it's an addition or a subtraction. It just says minor adjustments, and then major changes will be discussed with the union prior to the implementation. I think the critical sentence in this is the next one, which says employees will normally be assigned work hours in keeping with their employment status. And so that's where we think, as long as they're staying within these employment groups, there can be adjustments of 30 minutes or less. and well, even it says major changes will be discussed with the union. So I do think, and we're really probably talking about that middle one, because if there's 7 hours or more, there's not a lot of adjustments that can happen, right? I mean,
Yeah, they're not gonna get a bigger insurance cap, they're not gonna get, yeah, I mean, they're in that status already.
yeah. And I think the group that you've been trying to strike out for 3 years, the less than 20 hours per week group, I think we have one.
Very few.
Well,
Yeah.
this proposal is.
I know. I thought I'd just take the opportunity to acknowledge your position on that one. But really, it's talking about the middle group that has, is a group of people that are. That's a big change in hours, from 20 hours to 35 hours in a week's time. I mean, that's a lot of variance.
Well, and I think the other thing too is that if these people are 7.5 hour employees and that's what they want, you shift them a little bit because of something that happens within the scope of this 30 minutes. I think that that's different than saying you're now an 8 hour employee for whatever reason. When you've scheduled your life around being a 7.5 hour employee. And I understand there's issues that can pop up, and we're trying to figure out how to have people make up hours and stuff. But we also are bargaining that piece with Article 18, right?
Yeah.
So we
This
might
is,
fix it.
I understand that, obviously bumping somebody up and you throw the makeup hours into that makes it harder. I think that's,
Yeah,
the purpose of this is really just to be able to assign work when things change, so.
And we think the existing language with a couple grammatical changes would be fine with us if we understand that gives you the power to shift from 30 minutes. If I'm 7:30, it should be to 8 or it should be back to 7. We understand that, and we'd be fine with that understanding and leaving the current language with the grammatical changes only. But if it's going to be something more than that, we really do feel like there should be a discussion, because they signed up to be a 7 hour employee or 7.5 hour employee. I mean, they didn't sign up to be an 8 hour employee, right? And
So-
they may be fine with it, and we're fine with it, but we got to have the discussion.
So let's go back to your proposal then. So you've said minor adjustments of 30 minutes or less so you've added per day.
From your
Okay.
proposal, yeah.
So are not considered, and then how would you interpret the employees will be normally assigned work hours in keeping with their employment status, which is then outlined in the 1, 2, and 3?
So we would see that referring back up to the August 15th, where you give them their calendar. If they're a 7.5 hour employee, that's the status that we're talking about. Whatever you assign them at, where you count out their work calendar. So.
Like when
based
we change the start time of a school, right? Then you may need to change the start times of the employees for the next school year.
Yeah, see, well, that's a major change that you've put in green there that I don't think that is in our,
on- Oh, did I get it wrong? Yeah. Occasionally that happens.
let me see.
This one right here.
Yeah, isn't that right here in theirs? I thought you guys were
Yeah.
just moving that sentence or something. Isn't that current contract?
Current contract just has work year, and then number 2 is work year, and number 3 is work schedule.
But I also think this is speaking to below, right? If you look underneath it, it's got I2, 3I, and then for some reason, unspeakable reason.
Yeah,
it's
that
C.
sentence is in 3A. It's just dropped down one.
Well, we
line.
dropped it down to kind of make
Right.
it
Yeah.
make it look like it's
The
this,
header for the next
the
part.
header for the next
Yeah.
part. But you've changed in what you gave us here. It says in green 2 work week and work schedule, and that's a change from current contract language that we haven't agreed to.
Wait a second. So which, number 3, the title? Or are you talking about down in number 3A?
I'm talking in the title in 2. Because Vance just
Oh,
referenced
gotcha.
back up to number
Oh.
2, and so
Wait a second, it's right there.
the
this.
contract language is work year,
Gotcha.
and you've changed it to work week and work
Okay.
schedule.
All right.
So that kind of changes everything.
Yeah, okay. Well, we can make that correction.
But I do think that's important, because if Vance is pointing back up to you establish all of this stuff on August 15th, then I mean, it still says in work week that we will assign employees their work week annually. So some level, someone come back to work and they know that this is
I
my
think
new
that,
schedule.
Dan, I think that was an error when I was copying and pasting it over.
Okay.
So that's my bad. I think that was just a copy and paste error, because I think it was supposed to go right here.
Okay.
So I'll move it back down to where it was. That was 1910 for sure. Yeah,
Well, we'll take a look at this and
sure.
um,
Yeah, that should be work year, and then that should be down below. So that was just copy and paste error.
so it does look like we're getting a little bit closer on that one. Did you have any other changes on there that we need to look at?
No, I think we just agreed with the things you didn't want to change.
Okay.
So. And I'll make that correction and send you a corrected copy.
Okay. All right. Do you have any more?
That's all we have for now.
Okay.
We're still working on 18. Although I
Okay.
did want to ask you a quick question about 18.
Sure.
Under your, if I understand what you're offering, if I'm a full-time employee, let's say I'm Ron, I need to be here to scrape the streets, the sidewalks, so clearing snow, but I'm snowed into my house where I can't get out. In that scenario, I would have to burn a vacation day. Because I'm designated and I can't come in.
Yes. I mean, I think that we've
Well,
demonstrated flexibility, tried to work within, if we have any flexibility within the hours, start times, things like that, but we have had to enforce, usually it's employee says, hey, I don't want to come in, I don't feel safe coming in, I'd rather just take a vacation day or something.
No, I just want to make sure I understood.
Yes,
was-
that is how that is.
Okay,
All right, so
that's it for us then.
okay, we have reclassification. Yeah. So on reclassification.
I think we're short a copy.
Oh, there you go. I will look off my computer. No, I know. I was being lazy. All right, so on number one, we added the or classification language in number one and then marked it with an okay at the end. We think we've agreed on everything on that one. Same with number two. We just added the okay there to identify that we've agreed on that language. But we are rejecting your strikeout of the superintendent's denial not being subject to grievance. And then we toyed with the idea of the change of placement language, but we thought since we'll be bringing a counter proposal on salary, we'll just bring it there.
Okay,
So,
sounds good.
all right, and then so we are rejecting your bundle proposal. So I don't know if you want to do the honors and.
No, I think we all know.
Okay, so but we do want to talk a little bit about it.
Do we want to, is this why you're bringing 19?
Yes, let's do 19 first, and then we'll come back to the bundle.
Okay.
So let's see, we've got an okay there. I know that you think that the latter part of B is illegal. We'll check with legal on that.
Yeah, we don't have a dog in this fight. It doesn't make sense to have illegal language that can't be. I mean, if the district does it, they that's my concern, right? So if you find out something different, please forward it to me so I can
Okay.
look at it.
And then, so I know you have some language identifying tier 1, tier 2. We would just rather, basically on that D, we would just rather say, let PERS deal with that. So that's why we changed that shall to may. Is retiring employees, whatever tier 1, tier 2 that's just really saying that PERS may use accumulated sick leave for increased retirement benefits. So,
Could we maybe add eligible retiring employees? That
Yeah.
way, that way they can check and see if they're eligible.
Mhm.
I don't think the shall or may is the big thing for us. It's just, we want people to be aware that you need to check, you may not be eligible. you know?
Okay, we can think about that.
Okay.
And then I think in F, we, we all agreed based on what you gave us, so we put an okay there. I guess that technically is part of a package or a bundle proposal, but based on what we're seeing, we think that that's all okay. Now, if you look on that on F, Roman numeral 3.1, you still had maintained a 15 minutes. We're striking the whole thing out. And so I don't know, Marissa, if you want to add anything to that.
We don't really set a minimum use of sick leave. With Oregon's rounding rules, you kind of have to charge people appropriately. You can't just be like, okay, well, we're going to round it up to 5 minutes, or we're going to round it down from 7 or 6 minutes to 5 minutes. We put it in however it is, and there's rarely an occasion where somebody actually utilizes 15 minutes of sick leave. Typically, something like that is going to be used in like a flex situation. Somebody's going to be like, can I flex 2 days from now? And I don't think that there's a need for it in the contract for a minimum use of sick leave.
I pulled it out of the law, but I mean, it says it can be taken in increments as small as 15 minutes. But I mean, if that's the understanding, I don't have a problem not including that.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just trying to put what says the law, right? So if you guys have a system that works out to the employee's benefit, when they can take 5 minutes or whatever it is, or flex it, or I don't think we care. It's just more that that's where I got it. So if we strike it all out and we know what the law says and we follow the law or better, so we can always do better, then
You weren't going to miss an opportunity.
so, well, I am now though. So
Yeah.
we'd be amenable to that with that understanding. That's totally reasonable.
And then on I think we found agreement there. I think the only other change, so in the sick leave bank language on 4, we just identified that through how we're identifying that as an okay on 4. 4A. With 4B, we would still want to say an employee will not be eligible for sick leave bank if receiving funds from Paid Leave Oregon. I know yours is maybe after they've exhausted, but we'd prefer to keep this language. We did counter propose on C, taking it down from 400 to 300 hours for the minimum balance.
So how many employees, I mean, what's the logic behind 300?
I did, so with licensed, 400 divided by 8 is 50.
Yeah.
300 divided by 6 is 50, so I say like 6-hour employee.
Okay.
That's kind of how I figured that.
Okay. All right.
So on D, we went ahead and you had kind of made sure you had put E above because that was your lettering system. But so we did put that, this is referencing the language just above it.
Right.
Now you had added on D a sentence said that, what did it say?
They can't use the leave until they actually.
Yeah, I would rather not, this is somebody who's to me has put their, has bought the insurance, so to speak. They've donated. They're being asked to donate again because the bank is low. But to me, they're a member of the bank. They've donated, they're a member of the bank, but they may not have enough hours currently when you guys go ask and say, hey, we need everybody to kick in a number of hours. They may not meet the threshold at that point. We don't think they should be excluded from accessing the bank. What this language is intending to say is they can stay in the bank, but when they get their next accrual and then qualify, then they're going to have that automatic deduction at that time. So
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that you understood why we weren't including that language, because I think the purpose of it is everybody's contributing, then everybody gets access. And there may be times where when you go out and ask for more hours, someone's not eligible to donate anymore. But we don't think that should exclude them from the bank. So
Okay. that's
it on that.
So the reason why it was numbered a little differently on 4 was because that's a huge paragraph, and we're trying to break it, it talks to a few different issues in there.
Okay.
So we were trying to break it out so people could find what they're looking for a little easier. easier. You don't have to go through everything necessarily all in one shot. The other thing too is that, did we remove the language about, oh no, there it is. No, never mind. So I think that was the only question I had. The only point I wanted to make on that was just making it a little easier to read, a little bit of white space in between things, you know? Because just me reading this, I was like, wow, this talks to a few different things, and, you know, so just a thought on that one.
Okay.
What about our sick leave proposal?
You're sick. Which one was that? Which part of that?
20 days banked, and the rest can be put it.
Oh, we didn't have time to talk about that.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, what we'll do is we'll look at this. It is part of the bundle, but it'll give us some ideas.
I wanted to be able to at least give you some feedback on some of the
Yeah.
things we had mutually agreed upon. So,
appreciate
let's see, what are we at for time? So we're 4:12. Can we talk a little bit about your bundle proposal?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, first of all, Tammy, I thank you for your presentation. I think you did a great job, and I think the CPI, thank everybody for the CPI. I think that's always helpful to see, what's happened historically over time and where things measure up. So I think that's useful information for our next proposal. I think as we look at, if we take kind of sick leave out and we focus on the, I think the significant parts of your bundle are the salary, vacations, and holidays. I think your salary proposal certainly is getting us closer in what you're proposing there. I think the difficulty for us in this is when you it's kind of all the extra things that are added into this. You know, when you look at the longevity stipends, that it's not just you start annualizing it, and every year you're getting that. That's kind of, I don't say this negatively, it's kind of like hiding different forms of, how you get, you could put that towards more step increases versus having, because really that's almost what it becomes, is another kind of step increase when, you have something that's 3 years in a row running at $500. So.
Well, let me respond to that, because what we're doing here is getting more money in this person's paycheck, and there's ways to do that are more advantageous to the district and work for the members, but are also, not something that, when you're looking down the road now, you're going to say, wow, we're paying $25 an hour for the minimum person here, right? That's the lowest wage we pay, because they have to be here 8 years under this current plan to even get this. Mm-hmm. So there's the first 8 years is the savings on this plan, but also it doesn't stack to where you're saying it's annualized at 500. That's true, but if you switch that to a COLA, like many districts do, especially south of here for some reason, southern part of the state does a lot of this. It's very interesting, but if it's 2% when you hit these times and 3%, well, now it's 2% on top of 5% for the COLA, and if there's a step involved, you see what I'm saying? Like, it keeps building that way. So we can shift that towards steps, and we're willing to have that discussion. We can add some steps on the end of the scale. We can do those things, but it seems to me that that would be more of a benefit for us and not as much savings for you. Do you see what I'm saying? Because it's going to compound. It's going to compound. That step's going to compound. And it's going to have a COLA stacked on top of it, and the next step on top of that, right? And that's why we're trying to show you some different options. Mm-hmm. So it's because we're trying to be sensitive to that piece. So you're having reasonable costs here, and people got to earn these additions over here, and they don't stack the same way. That's the intent anyway. Just so you know. Yeah.
So I think when you take the salary placement but when you start adding in, basically what you just said, as far as adding vacation for 10 and 11 month employees is, the difficulty for us is we'd rather see that in the wage scale up front, because that, you know, one of Kim's points in her presentation was the recruitment piece. You know, people don't go digging into the CBA to realize that they're, you know, what their overall average, you know, what their annual salary is going to be when, you know, for those number of days, they're looking at, you know, what's that posting say I'm going to make per hour? And so I think that's, and when we cost out our proposals, that's what gets difficult in terms of trying to cost out a total proposal when we have all these different things to cost out, which I think as we get closer here, we're, you know, both sides are they're gonna cost each other's proposals. Overall, I think our overall response was positive to the proposal. I'm not sure if our counter proposal would be as stellar as Vance would like it to be, but I think we're getting close. Team, was there anything to?
So if we had 4 weeks paid vacation on a job posting, you don't think that would recruit people?
Well, I think well, first of all, if it was a 4-week, I mean, if I'm looking at a 4-week paid vacation, I'm looking at that as autonomy for taking 4 weeks off. There's no way we could operate by having 10-month employees take 4 weeks off during a school year.
It's actually not correct. Not to be contrary, just to point out a fact, Dallas currently has 4 weeks off for their folks. And what they do is, it's not the same vacation as some of the 12-monthers might have. They say, you paid spring break, paid 2 weeks of Christmas, and the last week of June. That's how they do it. So it is doable. You do have to adjust a few things. No, can't meet on contact days, right? Things like that. So that way you're not paying for a sub also.
Right.
And again, this is trying to show you a savings over bigger COLA, which could then be, you got to stack the COLA on next year, you know. But I would point out that you guys gave us a presentation that pointed very heavily about when you measure out all the other factors, you might pay a little less here, but the 221 extra average. Now you're telling me that they look at the pay factors. I'm just trying to figure out which side you want me to take on this argument, because I agree with both. I mean, I agree with both. I think that there is a lot of hidden savings, not savings, excuse me, a lot of hidden benefits that people don't realize. But if you really want them to look at the cost of the wage for that, we're happy to have that discussion. But it does undermine your last presentation just a little.
No, I think we're both saying sort of the same thing, is that regardless, we have to factor out the total cost, whether you put them in vacation. I'm not trying to make
Just
one,
saying, yeah, it just
one
seems like
side
that,
or the
yeah.
other. No, there's no
Okay.
doubt that whatever as we get closer on this, is what would a week of vacation for a 10-month. I mean, that has to be cost into their wages.
I would also point out that last bargaining go around, we were kind of getting close, and we had like a holiday in there. And then Steve had sat down and did some costing and figured out, you guys felt like you'd rather spend that money on a more of a percentage raise, and we did that. So we're trying to be creative, we're trying to shoot some things, but at the end of the day, we're not opposed to listening to those things. Both things increase the person's monthly paycheck, and that's what we're looking to do. We're just trying to give you a buffet versus just one selection item you get, so we can figure out how to do it.
And my only thing was, I talked about the posting, and Vance said, asked about the 4 weeks. I just think that having those, asterisks that say that the 4 weeks have to be taken this time. If I'm looking and I said I get 4 weeks of vacation, but not knowing, because I think most people put a high value on autonomy of being able to choose those times, and if those are paid vacation during
These times,
that might not be as attractive.
Those are pretty premium times, so.
That's true.
The asteriske's already there when the posting says generous benefits. Right?
Well, no.
That's
I
probably.
think most people would say that school districts, including this one, have very generous benefits.
But I hear what you're saying. I mean, we're not opposed to looking at different ways to get to the ultimate goal of a bigger paycheck for our folks. We just want to make sure that instead of the standard insurance and wage only, COLA only, we have other options open that might accomplish that may be a little more palatable for the district.
Yeah. So, do you guys have any more on this one? I don't have anything more. I think one thing Kim addressed in her presentation was the, used SNAs a couple times on there, I think, and if I think on her presentation where she highlighted the 4, I think EA might have been one of those as well.
It was.
It was, and I will get that to you today.
Is that your official proposal that you're getting to us? I know we talked about it, and we had some great discussions in work session, but.
No, we'll bring a proposal
With the wages?
on the next one,
Okay.
with wage increase, with job descriptions, that'll be part of our
Okay.
next proposal.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Okay.
With a proposal that addresses those.
Okay.
So it'll be a little bit different than what you've seen before.
Okay.
I've talked to our team about those, and I might want a minute of your time before you have a proposal.
Got it. Do you guys have anything more at all?
I think we're good.
So just some,
The 10th, right?
so housekeeping here a little bit. So we are,
Or do we have-
so we're back on next week.
Yeah, actually, it's next week.
June
So
27th.
Tuesday, right?
2 to 6
Yep.
on Tuesday. So we will be bringing a financial counter proposal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
So, and then just to confirm our times, so we're on the 10th from 12 to 4, July.
July 10th, I have 12 to 4.
And then on, a lot of emails on the 19th. Did you get the green light, Vance?
Yes, my home calendar is clear.
So 11 to 3?
Yeah, do you want to do 11 to 3:30 and take a
Or
lunch?
3:30? I'm fine with that if the team is. You guys fine with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, looks like we got a yes.
Okay, so we've got three more dates.
Oh, it's your turn to buy. Perfect.
Well, that's kind of why I suggested it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was very kind of you.
Yes. Do we, I mean, we can talk about this next week. I thought maybe a work session the week of 4th of July, after, because we'll have we'll have 2 full sessions today and Tuesday, and then maybe,
Thursday works pretty good for me.
I was
Later in
thinking
the day.
Thursday in the morning would be,
The morning is, right now, is not good. Well, I guess it's good after about, gonna be in Dallas till 9:30, so probably like 11, as soon as I can get out of here.
so do it 11?
Is that okay with you guys?
July 6th.
We need you for
Right.
that.
Yeah.
We need you for that. Does that work for you too?
I think I took,
What's the
I
date?
took Dan's advice. I think I took the 3rd and 5th off.
Smart man.
I took the 3rd off. So does that work for you, Lisa?
July
6th.
6th? Yeah, it works for me. What time?
11?
11?
To question mark.
And 11 to win.
To whenever.
Let's just do 11 to 12.
Okay. Why don't we put 1 just to be safe?
Okay.
Okay.
And again, these are just kind of the off the record.
Well, it's really
Yep.
a chance.
Problem
so
solving.
The people that are watching will know. It's a chance for both sides to speak their mind clearly without it blowing back on them, because sometimes when you're trying to answer, you're trying to figure out what the problem with, this proposal looks totally reasonable to us. What is your
Yeah.
problem with this?
Right.
And, sometimes it's, really helpful to hear what we think the concern we have. Because if we could address that concern in our proposal, then it's more likely we're gonna get to an agreement. So that's the intent, if anybody's wondering what these things are. But nothing in that meeting is binding on anybody or repeated without permission, and unless it's very innocuous, and then we come back to our committees, we have the full discussion, and we figure out how to craft those proposals and present them in open and transparent way. All right,
So, are we?
we're done.